Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Purpose, a podcast where we explore themes of finding your true purpose, from quitting corporate, moving cities, practicing holistic health, and more. Join me as we discover our purposes together. My name is Julie Yoshinaga, and I'm so happy you're here. Today, I'll be sharing about my move to New York City in my late 20s without a job, the steps I took to make this happen, and the reflection about my life in LA. Let's get started. In my first episode, I introduced a segment called The Beauty in Humanity, where I'll share a moment from my life that I saw or experienced that made me smile or made my heart feel warm. And to briefly recap this segment, it's a way to stop and be present with the world around us. Even if we're having a bad day and we feel like the world is crashing within us, there's a lot of great things happening, and sometimes it's about shifting your perspective. It's about shifting your perspective around the people around us, the things that are happening to you, and if you can look at the larger picture, it sometimes alleviates the things that are happening internally. So the Beauty in Humanity is a segment for us to stop, reflect, and be present with ourselves, because we owe that to ourselves and we deserve that. So for this week's Beauty in Humanity, I was walking home from work. I was in Flatiron, and it gets pretty busy where Broadway is. If you don't know where that is in New York, it's a cross street, and there's a lot of pedestrians, not a lot of car movement. There's a lot of foot traffic, so it is a little bit chaotic. Everyone's walking in all sorts of directions, and I saw a girl drop her keys from her bag, and she's walking super fast. So I try to grab the keys and go up to her, but a different family also sees, and they grab the keys before I do. And they're like, oh, she went that way. And I said, oh, she went the other way. So we both had a very different perspective on where she went or who the key owner even was. Luckily, they were right and it wasn't me. I think they got a different perspective that allowed them to see who actually dropped the keys in the midst of the chaos. The point of the story is knowing that other people wanted to do something good and they were really genuinely trying to figure out who it belonged to, and it makes you grateful that there are good people in the world. It was a moment of compassion, and what I've noticed is when you're operating from a perspective of helping others and not just for your own self, it's 1,000 times more rewarding. I hope even the smaller things that happen in our lives, we can stop back and reflect and appreciate those moments that we have as people together. I can't believe it's been over half a year since I moved to New York from Los Angeles. Just thinking about this now, and also when I was drafting for this podcast episode, I was really reflecting on the state of mind and the emotions that I was going through during this time, and it really had me emotional again. I know when I was moving, I had so much excitement for my new opportunities in New York, and I'm very, very grateful that I moved here, and I'm extremely happy here. But Los Angeles is the city where you drive 2 hours and you get beaches, mountains, deserts, beautiful hikes, pretty much any scenery and activity you want to do, you get that in a short drive. It also has beautiful wide skies and the weather's beautiful. There's such a diversity of people and culture. It has the best foods, so many activities for any type of person. The world is really your oyster in LA. It's somewhere where I'll have so much gratitude for the rest of my life. LA is home, and LA will always be home. Los Angeles wasn't just a place, it was really for the people and the culture. It's where I had my identity crisis and really rediscovered myself so many times through and through. I'm second and fourth generation Japanese American, and it's where I really grew to love who I am as a person. And prior to that, I really struggled with my identity and accepting who I am. Los Angeles and the people around me really helped me shape that it's okay to be who you are. I also have an appreciation for my younger self. I'm very proud of how far I've come. Everyone should feel really proud of everything that they've accomplished from point A to point B, because we're all in this journey figuring out what our purposes are. We're discovering that every single day, and I'm grateful for the chapters in LA for doing that for me. I was driving home from my last day of work at my corporate job, and I was going down the 405, going to my apartment in Palms, Los Angeles. It was that day where the emotions finally hit me. I was 3 days from moving to New York City, and I had a ton to do still. I had to pack my remaining stuff, deep clean the apartment, sell my mattress or get rid of it. I had to sell my car, which is pretty easy to do because I did it on a CarMax. So if you are moving, I would highly recommend. And I wanted to spend the last few days with family. So there was a lot of things on my to-do list. It hadn't hit me up until those last 3 days, but on that drive home, I felt all the emotions. And I think what did it for me was feeling sad about the toxic job I was leaving. I was wondering during that car ride why I was feeling so emotional for leaving that toxic job. I started to realize that it wasn't the job itself. It was the job that was associated with all my chapters adulting in Los Angeles. I was no longer going to be making the drive up the 405 anymore to go to my work. I was no longer going to be sitting in traffic, really bad traffic. And I was also no longer going to be feeling the existential dread. Something about that made me sad. Somehow I felt like I was going to miss it all because I was still closing a chapter that was extremely pivotal for my growth. Despite having a job that I didn't really like, the things in my life during that chapter was incredible. I think it also came from fear of leaving comfort, which was home, and familiarity because I didn't know anything else other than Los Angeles. And there's a lot of uncertainty, so closing this chapter meant taking a risk, doing something completely different. It was a lot to take in and to feel. I cried a lot on that car ride home, and it felt really good. Crying was cleansing, and all those feelings that I had been feeling or not able to release, I finally was releasing it at this moment and processing those emotions. Those tears really made me understand that everything was coming from a place of gratitude. It was gratitude for my family and friends that I deeply loved. It was also gratitude for the life path and opportunities I had. And this gratitude really grounded me. I had so much to be thankful for. Why would I not take this opportunity to move to New York? Because that would be wasteful not to. And I had this calling to move and to really challenge myself and grow. So why would I not take that chance? And those were the thoughts that were happening in my head when I was driving back. That sadness turned into a lot of gratitude and love. I was able to finally close that chapter with so much fullness in my heart, and I'm really grateful that I had that drive to really process it all. I know life transitions can be extremely, extremely difficult. So if you're going through something similar, know that feeling fear is normal and feeling uncertainty is also normal. Sometimes you do have to do the hard thing to push yourself and find more out of your own life. Know that your community won't go away, that love and care won't go away, but opportunities can disappear. So make sure you take that chance on yourself. You deserve that. You owe it to yourself and the people around you. So moving to New York has a bit of a backstory. In 2021, I was going through a big breakup, and the next day I was on the phone with a friend and I blurted out, I can finally move to New York. At that point, I had never visited New York City once in my life. All I knew about New York was pictures I saw and maybe like scenes from movies. I had no idea what New York was going to be like, but I had this gut feeling and the subconscious that I had to move here. In that previous relationship, I really made myself small. To an extent, my life did revolve around this relationship, and I lacked my own identity. Saying something like, I can finally move, showed me that I was craving to develop a better identity within myself and to really focus on my wants and my purpose, because I wasn't doing that for a collective identity anymore. I say this because I think a lot of young girls and people in relationships, especially when you're young, you get caught up with the wrong relationships and you don't do things for yourself enough. And that also is a reflection of your self-worth. The point is, I knew deep in my soul that I was craving growth and opportunities, new experiences, and I knew that New York was going to do that for me. It almost felt like the idea of moving didn't come from myself, but something else, like a deeper subconscious was saying, you're moving to New York, whether it's now or later, it's gonna happen. And I needed a few more chapters in Los Angeles, and I'm grateful for them because I feel like it was divine timing, but I honored it and I moved 3.5 years later, and now I really, really see the energetic alignment. As soon as I came to the city, I just felt like I was home. I had only visited New York once in my life since that point. So yeah, I'm grateful for taking that chance on myself. So moving was the goal, so how did I do it? There's a fine line between risk and failure. Because of this, I think it took me a really long time to take any risk in my life. I'm someone who's very, very risk averse. Even quitting my job was an extremely hard decision to make because not having financial stability was a very scary concept. But sometimes if you don't take that risk, you'll always ask yourself what ifs. And sometimes taking that risk is that threshold for you to achieve way more. Being stuck is only hurting you in the long run. The word failure sounds extremely harsh, but sometimes failure is success. Failures are things that happen in order for you to get to the next phase of your life. So I think reframing this in my head, what I thought failure was extremely imperative, because otherwise I would have stayed stuck for a really, really, really long time. So ask yourself, are you taking a calculated risk to benefit from it? And if it doesn't go the way you want to, you still gained all those life experiences that you're going to reflect on and be grateful for? Or are you never going to take that risk because you're scared of failure and you stay in the same place for the rest of your life? Moving is a really big decision, so take your time with it. It's not a quick decision. It took me 3.5 years. Like I said, I needed a couple more chapters in Los Angeles. I moved out of my parents' home after the pandemic, and then I went to Silver Lake, which is on the east side of Los Angeles. I lived there for around 1.5 years. And then I wanted to experience the west side. So I moved to Palms near Culver City. And those were the chapters that I know I really, really needed. I met some great people during that time that are some of my closest friends. And those chapters were kind of like the stepping stones for me to get to where I am today with my journey in New York. Don't rush into a decision. Just because you have that gut feeling doesn't mean that it needs to happen now. Sometimes you need to take the time to really think about those things and see what other business that you need to finish where you're at. Life isn't about completing things super quickly. It's also about the transformation that happens internally. So focus on that, and the things that you want, like moving, will come with it. Before moving, I would also suggest visiting the place that you want to move to. So after I had that gut feeling and that intuition that I could finally move to New York, I visited once in 2022 before moving. For me, one visit was enough because I just knew that I would move. But sometimes for others, it's going to require you a few more visits to really solidify if you actually want to do it. I knew that if I hated it, that would be part of the experience too. So I didn't mind whatever that chapter looked like. I just knew that I would move and that I would benefit from that experience. But for me, for some reason, I just had this gut feeling that I would love New York City, and that was definitely the case. I love it here so much. I feel so calm and at home here. And that sounds really weird to say because I know New York is one of those cities that are extremely chaotic, it's bustling, but I truly do feel like I'm meant to be here in this moment of my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Moving also requires a plan. Nothing will come from just a thought. You need action paired with that thought. If moving is not happening in your immediate future, I would definitely recommend making a plan for at least when that move's going to happen so you can actually plan out when you want that to happen. A lot of times in life, we'll have good ideas, and if you don't take the conscious effort on it, it'll never happen. Whatever you want to do in life, you have to have a plan. Otherwise, someone else is going to do it for you, or they're going to do it and you're going to lose that chance. I also think that taking calculated risks is important. You'll always stay put if you don't work past your comfort, and comfort kills your dreams and potential more than anything. Think of it as a scale. Comfort is a really great thing, but if you're too comfortable, that can also be a bad thing. And that's with anything in life. Even if you take, for example, kindness. Kindness is a very, very great quality. But let's say on the other end of the spectrum, you're too kind, which I don't even know if that's a thing, but maybe you're more susceptible to having your boundaries crossed. Everything in life, there is a positive and a negative. So don't get too comfortable and know when you need to work past it. If your gut says do it, maybe trust your gut. Listen to it and really work through it because your gut will never lead you astray. I would really think about, is it fear that's causing you not to move, or is it something else? I say this now because it took me a really long time to work past fear, the unknown, my comfort, and that was giving me a lot of unhappiness in my life. I was getting stuck and I knew that it wasn't aligned with who I am. I needed to push myself further to be happy again. Sometimes you need to do the hard thing to bring more opportunities for yourself. You can close doors so you can make rooms for more opportunities. Opportunities show up, but you also need to be ready to take them. So do that work internally to prep yourself so you have the best chance possible to do the things that you want to. Taking that leap of faith gets you those opportunities that you wouldn't have known of, and don't get stuck living a life that you don't want. Those are all things I told myself and worked through. Next thing that I would do if you're planning a move is conducting a privilege analysis of your life. What I had to do was think about all the things that I had privileges in. For me, it was being a citizen of this country or in the US. My parents have a home in LA. I had savings and different fallbacks. What's the worst case scenario? Often you won't get there and you don't want to think about ever getting to the worst case scenario, but I knew that if my plan to New York didn't work, I could go back home and figure out my plan from there. Of course, I didn't want that, but it's important to understand what your different safety nets are so you can move forward and make the hard decisions for yourself. If you have the ability, I would also save as much as you can before you move. Knowing that I wanted to move, I had 3.5 years to save. You will definitely need that extra cash depending on where you move. New York is obviously a very expensive city, so the money that I saved up was security deposits, brokerage fees, crazy rent prices, and also helped me cover my living costs while I was looking for a job in the first couple weeks of being in the city. And then 4 months before the move, I went on Facebook to look for roommates and a sublease situation. I was on a women's only Facebook group and I interviewed 12 different girls and I found my 2 roommates I have currently right now. And I also found some really, really great friends from it. It's a really, really good resource if you're looking to move. I would look up the city that you're moving to and join that local Facebook group. And especially if you're a woman, there are oftentimes women-only Facebook groups. And I personally felt safer doing that because I wanted only girl roommates. So it was a great opportunity for me to find those people. Through that process of interviewing 12 different girls, I also met one girl who let me stay at her place for 2 weeks because she was going back home during that time. I was able to sublease from her and it was way cheaper to stay at her apartment for 2 weeks than to pay for a hotel for 2 weeks. So think about all those things before you move. You'll really have to plan out all these things and nothing just comes of a thought. If you need roommates, start looking for roommates. If you need to save, start saving. Think about your exit strategy for your job or start looking for a job, whatever steps that you need to take. Make sure you're doing those things because if you have a goal, there's going to be many different little steps that come with it. So, what am I doing now? I am now freelancing and working at a restaurant serving. I won't get into my long-term career plans just yet because I'm still working through that and I don't want to share anything prematurely, but in the short term, I am freelancing and serving at a restaurant. My plan before I moved here was to work at a restaurant, go back into the hospitality industry, and completely pivot gears and leave the corporate world. I know I'll still be trading time for money, but I wanted to heal other parts of my life and challenge myself on what success meant to me. So this was a natural step for me to re-explore this industry. I also thought of freelancing because it would still allow me to practice the skills that I have in figuring out what I want to do with them. And I know I said that I would be fully transparent in this podcast. So in the short term, my plan was to make enough money to cover rent, all other expenses, and also anything more for my life in New York. I don't think I would have been able to take this financial risk if I hadn't thought about it all the way through, because I am someone who really relies on financial stability. But I'm learning that you don't build capital with just a corporate job and also just trading time for money. And this is not financial advice because I am not a financial advisor, but sometimes you do have to take a risk to benefit. Staying stable won't often get you anywhere. Think about all those things when you analyze your own life and where you want to go. I know that there is a bigger long-term plan for myself. Until then, I'm okay taking these risks because I am able to see the bigger picture of it. My goal was ultimately to move over finding a new job. And if you listen to episode 1, you'll know that the job market was terrible and I wanted to leave corporate anyways. So I focused on moving as opposed to finding a job. And I took the steps above to make that happen. Of course, it's going to look different if you already are moving with a job, and my path is very unconventional, but there are ways to make it happen if you really want something. After moving here, I found the job within 2 to 3 weeks of landing in New York, and within that time, I started looking a week before, so it's doable, depending on what job you want. Doing the unconventional is what most people stray away from, and it's really hard. But don't let societal expectations, others' opinions, or your fears stop you from building the life that you want to live. It might be difficult at first, but know that it's hard because you're no longer settling from what's easy and you're going for what you deserve. Just know to trust yourself and your journey, and that failing isn't really failing. Failing is redirection, and it's more experiences under your belt to keep you growing. Life is too short, and you only live once, so you really don't have anything to lose. Or you could lose yourself if you don't take the chances on yourself. So find your purpose and dive headfirst, and just know that you're not alone. I'm right there with you. Thank you so much for spending time with me on Aligning with Purpose. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast so you never miss an episode. And be sure to connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at aligningwithpurpose.pod and @julioshi, JULIYOSHI. If you enjoyed today's podcast episode, please leave me a rating and review. Your support truly means the world, and catch you at the next episode.